Hello once again, squaddies, and welcome back to Dauntless. As always, I'm D. Today we'll be taking a look. In fact, you can see the beast in the distance there. This is the Fearless Slayer's Bestiary guide to hunting a Charrog. Now, the Charrog is a little bit unique compared to the last two things we've looked at. We've looked at the Gnasher, and we've looked at the Shrike. Both of them have interesting abilities, but neither of them really has something that the Charrog has. The Charrog does have one similarity to the Shrike, namely that it's an elemental beast. But rather than being associated with the element of wind, the Charrog, as you can probably guess from its name, is associated with the element of fire. A lot of its attacks actually have an ability to inflict a status effect on you, and this is probably one of the first ones you're going to encounter. I'll probably get hit with it a couple of times during this fight because I'm not perfect. You'll see it under my health bar, to the top left over there. It's under the health and stamina bar just to the right of the aether bar. It'll be a black square with a stylized fire in it. That means I have been set on fire. This does it's a damage over time effect, and it does deal some pretty bad damage if you let it. Now the Charrog, it's a mid-range fighter. It doesn't really like to be in close. It has some close-in attacks, but most of its stuff actually hits you at a middle range. Now, as for how many attacks it has, the Charrog actually has 11 different attacks, and just like with the Shrike and the Gnasher, I'm counting the Enrage, because the Enrage does do damage. Let's see which ones this beastie starts off with, because we're going to go ahead and start this fight. Now, one thing about the Charrog fight is you really want to take out its tail as fast as you can, because it will disable a couple of its specialties. But right there is one of its basic attacks, the Fireball. You saw it kind of scrunch up towards the back, and then gather fire in its mouth, and then spit out the Fireball as it lunged forward and flopped over. That Fireball will float around for a bit, and has tracking ability. It will follow you. If it hits you, it does a bit of damage. I think it knocks you over, but it also sets you on fire. Best way to deal with it is just redirect it into the Charrog itself. Now, we've seen a couple of other attacks. Let's see which one it uses next so I can talk about which one to describe. Okay, that's the shoulder charge. That has the least telegraph of the thing's attacks, aside from the claw swipe you just saw it hit me with. Oh, here's a big one. The Lava Bomb. You saw it backs up a little, digs its tail and into the ground, struggles for a second, then launches that ball of lava into the air. At a various point between either the apex, the top part of the arc, or about like a slayer and a half above you, it'll burst into two smaller balls that create lava patches on the ground. They will stick around and light you on fire if you walk into them. You just saw it use also the flame mortars, which is what I like to call these little ones over here, where it kind of scrunches its entire body in, and kind of like looks like it's gonna cough, and then when it finishes, it'll snap its spine straighter and launch them from the shoulder vents. There's the lava bomb again, just so you can see what it looks like from a distance. Those will set you on fire, as I said. Okay, there's a big one I'll talk about in a second. But the flame mortar, the fire patches on the ground again will light you on fire. It's hard to get hit by them if you're close in, but this is one of the more annoying attacks that the Charrog has. This is called the flame vent, or at least that's what I call it. You saw how it kind of pulls the top of its shell up, wiggles around in a kind of circular pattern, and then hovers for a second before snapping its spine straight and doing this. Now this attack is actually, like I said, it's mildly annoying, but it's also one of the weakest attacks the Charrog has for one very simple reason. That reason is that while it's doing that, the Charrog really can't do anything else. So if it's using Flame Vent, the Flame Vents are the only thing it's going to be doing. It's going to be just circling like that. You saw the tail swipe there? The tail swipe, it looks to the side, and then Ow. Okay, I didn't catch on fire from that, but it did hit me. And the tail swipe will go the way it's from the opposite. Like if it looks over its right shoulder, it'll swipe from its left to its right. When the thing is I think it's only when it's enraged, the Charrog can actually set you on fire with that. Because that flame trail, that's not just for show. I've been hit with that thing and set on fire a couple of times in my life. Okay, I haven't talked about all of it, because again, it has not enraged yet. There's one that I haven't talked about yet, the belly slide. It just kind of launches itself forward, slides forward on its belly. The big part of the danger of that attack is what you saw at the end there, where its entire rear end comes up and slams the tail down. This is one of the attacks. The belly slide is actually one of the attacks that gains a new effect when this thing enrages. Namely, what it does is it has a chance when it slams its tail down to create 3 small fireballs, kind of like the lava bomb, that launch out behind it from the tail when it slams down. Lava bomb coming in. Do not get hit by that, because the lava bomb is probably one of the most dangerous attacks this thing has. Now, it does have one. It has one attack that it only uses while enraged. Oh, flame vent's coming. Okay, there you see the fire thing. That fire mark is what shows you're on fire. You might think, oh, that didn't last long. That's because the easiest way to deal with that is literally to do what you're told when you're a kid. You don't necessarily have to stop, but you just start rolling. About 3 rolls will put the flames out. Or you can just, stand around and let it burn you to death. That works too, for you. I'm not going to tell anybody else how to play. There's the enrage. You see it slamming its feet down a lot. Alright, let's see if I can trick it into using its enrage only attack. Nope, it's going to do the lava bombs. Nope, it's just going to do fireball. Alright, when it's enraged, the fireball goes faster and has better tracking ability. If there's more than one person in the hunt, it will launch more than one fireball. Lava bombs, it tends to just burst lower. That's the shoulder charge. There, you see the fireballs from the belly slide tail slam. There, that's the enrage only attack, the fist slam. All it does is look at the direction and then slam its hand down. It only really does that if you're close to its head. Skip over that. Okay, here's its biggest attack, the Inferno Circle. You saw it kind of turn itself into an omega shape, gather fire, and then slam its spine down. Those fireballs will always have a gap in between them. They are never right next to each other unless you're point blank on this thing. And frankly, when it's enraged, you probably don't want to be, because this thing is as you can probably guess, the Charrog is actually rather dangerous. I'm trying to get to its tail so I can cut it off. Because while it can still do the lava bombs if you cut off its tail, it cannot do the 3 bombs from the tail slide. Now you might notice I haven't talked about any opportunities with this thing yet, like I did with the Gnasher or the Shrike. That's because the closest thing you really have to an opportunity to do a disable with the Charrog is A, cut off its tail. Take a swig of stamina potion real quick. Flame vents. But yeah, it's to cut off the end of its tail, which is what I'm trying to do with my shots here. There we go. Yes, breaking something will temporarily disable the flame vents. But there is actually a way to permanently disable a flame vent, because you see where they're coming from. They're coming from near the top of the leg, each leg. If you can create a break near there, it is entirely possible for one hunt to disable that Charrog, that one vent from the Charrog. If your team is good, you can, in theory, destroy all 4. I'm on fire again. Now, the Charrog does actually have a bite attack, but it doesn't use it very often. Because it looks a lot like that. I don't even know. In fact, I might be misreading a failure of the fireball to launch as a different attack. The good news is if you break the vent, you will also disable the flame mortar from that leg. So there's actually a good number of ways to disable some of the Charrog stuff. Alright, it's enraging again. You saw this, it just does the rapid fire multi-slams. In your eye. One thing I haven't talked about with the shoulder charge is the head movements. It will move its head from side to side. That does actually create a larger hitbox, so you do have to be careful with that. I'm trying to see if I can get it to do flame vents while there's another example of this flame. Because there's a difference. There's a couple of differences for the Charrog's attack. It only gains the one new one with the Fist Slam, which is also unique because the Shrike and the Gnasher did not gain any new attacks with their enrages. Lava Bomb. Also, an enraged Lava Bomb will also occasionally split off more than just 2. Trying to get around. One of the best ways to deal with a fireball is just get around behind the Charrog. Let it block it for you. Here comes the flames, Inferno Circle. You don't even really need to dodge if you're paying attention. You can just walk in between them. I broke something. I broke the Charrog's model. But yeah. Aside from that one new attack, because Inferno Circle can be used outside of the Enrage, that's the Charrog escaping by melting. One thing about this, don't be near that, because that does count as a damage attack. Or it does count as something that will do damage to you if you're in it, so... Anyway, aside from, like I said, Inferno Circle can be used outside of Enrage for the Charrog. That's usually going to be at higher tiers, though, because I think the Charrog is also a tier 3 beast. But a lot of its attacks gain different effects. Like I said, the Fireball goes faster and tracks a bit better. The Lava Bombs occasionally split off more. They also go faster. Everything goes faster. There's also just the biggest difference, though, is the Flame Vent. The Flame Vents will actually reach out farther. So it becomes a little bit harder to dodge them if you're not paying attention. But then again, if you're hunting something like this, you really should be. One thing about the Flame Mortars is occasionally it will also launch a 5th one from the mouth. You see how I rolled into the fire and now I'm on fire. Alright, it's enraging. Ow. Don't know how that didn't hit me, but it didn't, so. The Claw Swipe, again, it only really uses that if you're right behind its front legs. It doesn't do much damage. It's just a get the hell away from me attack. The Fist Slam is kind of the same idea, but it actually hits a little bit harder, I think. Incoming Lava Bombs. taking a lot more hits than I need to. Okay, here we go. Yeah, there, you can actually see just how far out those go. And it's going to go straight into the Inferno Circle. That is the one exception I've seen to the idea that this thing cannot do anything during Flame Vent. Now, if you're good and lucky, you can actually get in here, get in between the Charrog's legs, and keep attacking it during Flame Circle, because its legs can actually push you along. I don't recommend being on the inside of the turn like I am right now. But it can actually work out pretty well if you're good. And like I said, also a bit lucky. Not sure where that went, but... and enrage. What do we got? Oh, just a shoulder charge. Good. There. Okay, when you see the black smoke coming out like that, that means you broke an event. So the back left leg will no longer be able to hit me with the flame mortars or the fire vents. Of course, I mean, doesn't mean anything else, because this does not mean a thing against other attacks. Or it doesn't mean anything now, because the Charrog is dead. Alright, folks. Once again, once we get back to Ramsgate, I will do the quick review of the attacks. Actually, up to 65% danger there. Damn. Didn't expect it to be that high. Whoa. Darian learned Double Team. I do like to rate these. Give Phoenix Labs some feedback, guys, if you play this game, because they're working hard. Still waiting on the transmogs to come out, so. Although I'm not sure how they're going to handle that if they ever do PvP. Although they're probably not. Oh, damn it, there's some Sky Blossom over there I could have gone and got. Of the Charrog's attacks. Alright. We'll talk to the ram here, because this is Ramsgate. Talk to one of the rams. Alright, so remember, the Charrog has 11 different attacks to use. The Fireball is probably going to be the one you see the most often, at least at the start, and at the start of each round, because of how the Charrog does it. It draws its front legs backwards just a little bit, hunches a little, and gathers fire into its mouth. It'll then lunge forward, and its front legs will actually go out from under it, so it'll be the front half of its body will be actually lying on the ground. A Fireball comes out of its mouth. This hovers above the ground and tracks one player. Now, like I said, it does have homing abilities, and during Enrage, the Fireball goes faster, has better tracking ability, and there might be more than one. Next up, the Lava Bomb. Probably the biggest common attack this thing has. It backs up, digs its tail into the ground. So you'll notice this, even if its tail is broken, this can still be done. After a second, it'll snap its tail up into the air and launch a large blob of lava or fire. Now, in the air, the blob at a semi-random point will break apart into two smaller ones that land on the ground, and they become lava patches. They stick around for a bit and will inflict burning status, along with doing a little bit of damage on their own. Now, reason I say it's semi-random point for the break is because it's either at the, I've seen it at the apex, the top part of the arc. I've seen it hit the ground, so it doesn't always split, and it usually varies between the highest point and about 1.5 Slayer height. 1.5 times Slayer height. Sorry, I gotta switch. I gotta scroll because I've got this open on my second monitor, and it takes up a ton of space. All right, next up, the fire mortar or the flame mortar. It's a mid to short range attack. It hunches back up for a second, and then snaps its spine straight. 4 to 5 fireballs will launch. The 4 will come out of the top of the leg joints, whereas the 5th one occasionally comes out of the mouth. It usually forms a plus sign. It doesn't always do 5. It doesn't always do 4. 4 is the minimum, though. Now, the fireballs can, as we saw, hit you and cause a bit of damage. There's a chance there to get set on fire, but they also create patches of fire on the ground that stick around for a while and will set you on fire. They will set burning for you. Now, related to that is the fire vents, where it shakes its shell back and forth with a small circular motion. It jumps and hovers for a second, and then fire comes out just above each leg. Now, with the exception of the Inferno Circle, the biggest attack this thing has, the Charrog will basically never do anything else during fire vents. It'll just turn in a circle, moving the vents. Now, the reason I say fire vents and fire mortar are related is because, remember, if you can get a break near the top of one of the leg joints, or near the top of one of the legs, you can possibly disable that vent. You'll know it by black smoke coming out from the top of one of the legs. If you see that smoke, then that vent is destroyed for the rest of the fight. Again, I'm sorry I have to keep doing this, but okay. Next up, the Inferno Circle. This is the biggest attack that this thing has. It can be used when not enraging. Hello. Glad there's not voice chat in this. Like I said, the Inferno Circle can be used when not enraging, but a lot of times it's used when the thing enrages. And if it does do it that way, that is the end of the enrage. That is the easiest way to know. But it hunches its back up into something of an omega shape or an upside down U, and gathers in fire. Yeah, the fire kind of swirls in like a tornado look kind of thing. It's easier to see it than it is to describe it. After a few seconds, or usually around a few seconds, the Charrog slams its stomach down and launches fireballs in a 360-degree burst. They spread out as they go farther away, so the farther away from the Charrog you are when this happens, the easier it is to dodge. They do cause quite a bit of damage, about mid-level damage and burning status. And like I said, if this is used while the Charrog is enraged, that's the end of the enrage right there. Now we're kind of getting into the lower level, the lower tier attacks for this thing. The tail swipe looks to one side, draws the middle of its body in the opposite direction, and then swipes its tail from the opposite direction to the way it's looking. Tail has a trail of fire and can set burning. It can create burning status for you, but it's not a guarantee. Next up, the bite. Again, I'm not sure if the bite is a real attack or not, but I've seen it look like a bite, so I call it one. It draws back. It starts the exact same way as the fireball. It draws back a little bit, has fire in its mouth, but then it lunges forward a decent distance and attempts to bite the target in front of it. Again, I'm not sure if that's a real attack or if they removed it. We'll see. The tail slam. Sorry, I'm scrolling down so I have what I need. The tail slam hunches its back up for a second, then launches its rear legs up as it slides forward. And as it hunches up a little bit, then slides forward, and then its tail and rear legs come up and then slam into the ground. The tail slam itself causes damage, of course, and can knock you down. But if it's enraged, it can launch 3 blobs similar to the lava bomb, which leave behind small patches of lava. Again, set burning and can just do some damage on their own. The shoulder charge. It pauses for a moment before moving forward at a relatively fast speed compared to the way it moves normally, because the Charrog is not a fast beast. Now during the charge, it'll sweep its head from one side to the other. Occasionally it'll roar a little bit. The roar doesn't do any damage, but the head swipe does, so be careful of that. Alright, 2 more attacks. The Enrage. The Charrog kind of hunches its back and slams its front feet, alternating very rapidly for a second. The thing to notice about the Enrage is the back and the tail gain some pretty large red portions, and the eyes, of course, start to smoke. It only gains the 1 new attack, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, but there's a couple of changes in the others, such as the Fireball and the Lava Bombs get extra shots if there's more than one person. The Fire Vents have a much increased range, and all of its attacks basically go faster. And then, of course, there's the Fist Slam, which is only used when the thing is enraged. It looks at somebody near its head for a second, raises the front leg that's closest to that, and just slams it to the ground. The Fist Slam is easy to avoid. So like I said, one of the things I'm going to try and do eventually, I haven't mentioned this yet, but one of the things I'm probably going to try and do eventually is find somewhere that I can just, because I'm thinking of making a website for my channel, and I'll put the Bestiary I've created up on there. We'll see. But I hope you enjoyed, folks. The Charrog is actually a very interesting fight, just because of how much it depends on avoiding a bit of random chance. There's also the fact that the Charrog is probably going to be one of the first beasts, if not the first beast, where you encounter a stamina or a status effect, namely the burning status. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I sure did. If you did, feel free to like or favorite the video. You can also leave a comment down below if you have anything you'd like to say. If you want to keep up with me and never miss any of my current series, then feel free to join the squadron by subscribing to the channel. That does help me out. I really do appreciate it. But as for that, folks, I have been D. This has been the Fearless Slayer's Bestiary Guide to Hunting the Charrog. Until next time with another Bestiary Guide, good night, and good gaming.